Good morning, everyone. I'm Acting Prosecutor Dennis Callow here in Bergen County. I'd like to welcome all of you here for our press conference. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to introduce those who are with me at the podium. Of course, first and foremost is our Attorney General, GREWAL. We're also honored to have the Director of Criminal Justice, Veronica Allende, Colonel Patrick Callahan of the New Jersey State Police, Special Agent in Charge Gregory Erie of the FBI Newark office, and Assistant Special Agent in Charge Richard Reinhold of Homeland Security in Newark. We also have our Sheriff, Anthony Curidan, and from Bergen County local law enforcement, I'd like to recognize Ramsey Police Chief Brian Gurney and Upper Saddle River Police Lieutenant Dave Lowley. Also, my Bergen County Chief of Detectives, Rob Ancelotti. We're here today to announce the results of a major statewide law enforcement operation. Now, while it is the primary function of law enforcement to protect our residents, in this particular initiative, the focus was on the protection of our most vulnerable, our children. This operation, named Operation Home Alone, resulted in the arrests of child predators who were targeting victims whom they believed were underage boys and girls on social media. This operation is an example of the success that is possible through well-planned cooperation and collaboration, as this operation involved the participation of federal, state, county, and local law enforcement agencies. I am proud to say that our detectives here in Bergen County played a major role in this operation. I'd like to turn it over now to our Attorney General for some remarks. General?
Thanks. Thank you, Prosecutor Callow. Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for coming. As the prosecutor mentioned, we're here to announce the arrest of 16 alleged child predators. These arrests are the result of a sting operation called Operation Home Alone. These 16 men are accused of trawling through social media looking for underage victims. They used apps like Kik, Scout, and Grindr to groom their victims and to lure them for sex. But what these predators didn't realize was that they weren't talking to kids, but instead to our undercover officers. And when they showed up to meet their intended victims, we arrested them. Now, these defendants come from all walks of life, and a number of them had access to children, some by nature of their jobs, others because they held positions of public trust. The list of defendants includes a police officer, a high school teacher, a minister, a dental hygienist, and drivers for Uber and Lyft. But despite coming from different walks of life, they all shared one thing in common, as we allege, a desire to exploit children. Peter Tuchel is one of those defendants, a Ridgewood cop. He was arrested on April 15th. He's accused of arranging sex with the person he believed to be a 15-year-old girl. Kevin Roth is another defendant. He is a 26-year-old high school teacher in the Bronx. He's charged with arranging to have sex with a 14-year-old boy during an online chat. Now, during that chat, Roth shared his sexual fantasies with an undercover officer who he believed to be that minor boy. He's also accused of asking the minor to send him naked pictures of himself. Roth was arrested on Friday, April 12th, when he arrived at our undercover apartment looking to have a sexual encounter with an underage boy. Tuchel and Roth are both charged with luring and attempted sexual assault on a minor, both second-degree offenses. We've alerted the school in the Bronx where Roth teaches, the High School of Computers and Technology. The investigation, however, highlights something even more grave and even more important for us to share with you today. It highlights that there is a new breed of child predator. In the past, Child predators used to stalk children at playgrounds, at schoolyards, at shopping malls. Now they lurk on social media, using chat apps and gaming platforms. You see, they use the anonymity of the internet to assume whatever disguise serves their purpose. And they're prepared to strike at a moment's notice to sexually exploit a child. As we have seen in this operation and in others, these offenders are willing to travel across state lines to reach their victims. They're even willing to target children in the children's own homes when they believe that the parents are away. Hence, the name of our operation, Operation Home Alone. Simply put, these new child predators are a parent's worst nightmare. To counter this threat and to protect children, we've adjusted our methods. We're working collaboratively and aggressively across all levels of law enforcement to apprehend these child predators through investigations like Operation Home Alone and by employing other investigative techniques. We're identifying these offenders and we're bringing them to justice. We're determined to stop this predatory behavior. We want child predators to know that we're going to catch them, that the child that they target online very well may be the undercover officer who puts them in handcuffs. But we can't do it alone. We need parents and we need family members to do their part. They need to know that the profiles we posted online could very well have been profiles of their own children. So here's the message from Operation Home Alone. All parents need to be on guard. Predators use popular chat apps like Kik, Scout, and others. And we know from other operations that predators also use gaming platforms to target their victims. The logos for some of these apps appear on the board to my right. It is absolutely critical that parents familiarize themselves with these apps. They need to talk to their children about social media. They need to tell them that sometimes the people they encounter on these apps may not be who they seem. They need to check the security settings on their kids' apps to see who they're able to chat with. Are their chats restricted to their friends, or are strangers able to chat with them? Parents need to be vigilant, and they need to tell their children, do not share any personal information with strangers on the internet, either through email or chat, or even through revealing through a screen name unwittingly their gender or age. Now, as I stated at the outset, this operation was a true collaboration with nearly 30 law enforcement agencies involved, and it clearly shows what we all here already know, that we all work best when we work together across agencies, state and local, as well as state and federal. That's what we're doing here in New Jersey, and that's precisely what we did here in this case. The agencies involved included many members of the New Jersey Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, which is led by the New Jersey State Police under the leadership of Superintendent Colonel Patrick Callahan, who is here this morning and who you'll be hearing from in a moment. The participating agencies also included, of course, the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office, under the direction of Prosecutor Callow. They supplied assistant prosecutors, detectives, and other staff who worked 24/7 and were vital to the success of this operation. And they will be prosecuting 8 of these cases. The Division of Criminal Justice, under the leadership of Director Allende, who is here this morning, and who will be sharing additional details concerning this investigation, will prosecute the other 8 defendants. Our federal partners have included the FBI. Special Agent in Charge Greg Erie is here, and I'd like to thank him. I'd also like to thank U.S. Homeland Security Investigations for their role in this investigation and in others. Assistant Special Agent in Charge Richard Reinold is here, and you'll hear from him in a moment. The other federal, state, county, and local law enforcement agencies that made this operation a success are just too numerous to name, but they are listed in our news release, and some of their leadership are here this morning. I'd like to thank them all. I'd like to now turn it over to Director Allende, who will be followed by the other speakers, and after they're done, we'll take your questions. Thank you. Director Allende?
Thank you, Attorney General GREWAL. As the Attorney General stated, this was an extraordinary collaborative effort involving all levels of law enforcement. During Operation Home Alone, undercover detectives engaged in chats with the charged defendants over various social media platforms leading up to the arranged meetups when the arrests were made. Our undercover apartment was in Bergen County, and it was staffed with dozens of officers and evidence technicians who worked on arrest, surveillance, interview, and evidence teams. The 16 alleged child predators we arrested came from New Jersey, New York State, and Philadelphia. 4 of these defendants traveled 30 miles or more, with one defendant having traveled 110 miles. These predators traveled near and far, each hoping to find their victims vulnerable, each hoping to find them alone. But instead of finding a defenseless child to assault, instead of finding a defenseless child on which they could prey, these defendants were met by law enforcement officers and were arrested. 13 of the defendants charged during Operation Home Alone were arrested when they arrived at our undercover apartment. Another allegedly planned to meet his victim at a shopping mall and was arrested there. The 2 remaining defendants were arrested at their homes. 14 of the 16 men faced charges of second-degree luring and/or second-degree attempted sexual assault. Many also faced third-degree charges, including attempted debauching the morals of a child. One defendant, Jason Kaiser, faces third-degree charges of attempted debauching the morals of a child and possession of child pornography. Kaiser was already awaiting sentencing on a guilty plea in a prior child pornography case filed by the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office. 2 men allegedly sent explicit photos of themselves to the undercover detectives and faced third-degree charges of attempted sharing obscene material with the child. As the General mentioned, we also arrested Officer Peter Tuchel Jr. of the Ridgewood Police Department for allegedly arranging sex with who he believed was a 15-year-old girl. As far as the penalties for these crimes go, in New Jersey, second-degree charges carry a sentence of 5 to 10 years in prison. Third-degree charges carry a sentence of 3 to 5 years in prison. But this investigation did not stop once these defendants were arrested. Following their arrests, attorneys and detectives worked seamlessly to draft search warrants for any seized digital devices, including the defendants' cell phones. All seized devices were taken to the Forensic Computer Laboratory at the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office, where they will undergo full forensic examinations. These examinations will determine if the devices contain evidence of any prior encounters with underage victims that may constitute additional cases of luring, sexual assault, or child endangerment. First appearances were held, and 2 men were ordered detained pending trial. The other defendants, at a minimum, were ordered to report regularly to pretrial services, to that staff in the courts, and they are prohibited from using the internet except for work or having unsupervised contact with children under the age of 18. Simply put, these defendants are being closely monitored to prevent them from engaging in other predatory conduct. Operation Home Alone involved so much incredible teamwork, from the trained investigators recruited by the state police and ICAC task force who conducted the undercover chats, to the countless officers, attorneys, analysts, and other staff from all participating agencies who assisted in every aspect of this investigation. I commend all involved for their tremendous efforts. And I cannot name everyone, but I do want to recognize just a few. From the Division of Criminal Justice, I'd like to recognize our lead attorneys, Deputy Attorney General Lillian Daniel and Deputy Attorney General Alyssa Bloom, under the supervision of Deputy Bureau Chief Jillian Carpenter, Bureau Chief Julia Glass of the Financial and Computer Crimes Bureau, all under the leadership of Deputy Director Christine Hoffman. I also want to thank Executive Assistant Francine Venseller, Deputy Attorney General Supriya Prasad, and all of the Deputy Attorneys General and DCJ detectives who were assigned to this investigation. From the State Police, I would like to thank the ICAC Commander, Lieutenant John Pizzurro, Sergeant First Class Keith Young, Detective Brett Munch, and Sergeant Christopher Cam, and also Sergeant Paul Scortino of the ICAC unit within the State Police, and all members of the ICAC unit that assisted with this operation. From the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office, I'd like to thank Senior Assistant Prosecutor Brian Sinclair and Lieutenant Jeff Angermeyer, as well as all other members of the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office who assisted in this operation. I'd also like to thank Bergen County Sheriff Anthony Curitan, Saddle River Police Chief Jason Cosgriff, Upper Saddle River Police Lieutenant David Lally, Ramsey Police Chief Brian Gurney, and lastly, I would like to thank our federal partners at the U.S. Homeland Security Investigations under SAC Brian Michael, and at the FBI under SAC Greg Erie. Our law enforcement officers across New Jersey work tirelessly to investigate and prosecute violent criminals and those who fuel the deadly opioid epidemic by their widespread and pervasive drug distribution activities, and that's certainly a priority for our Attorney General and for our office. But protecting the children of our state has been and will continue to be a top priority. We will remain steadfast in our pursuit of the egregious offenders who seek to victimize our children. Thank you for your attention, and I now turn this over to Colonel Pat Callahan of the New Jersey State Police.
I'll just take a moment to echo everybody's remarks. To the Attorney General's point, when you have nearly 30 law enforcement agencies that get together and collaborate from federal, state, county, local levels, this investigation touched 4 different counties. It touched a subject in Pennsylvania as well as one in the Bronx, as referenced by the Attorney General. The scope of it is huge, and it really just happened over the course of just a few short days. So the fact that we have a task force like this, the fact that we have an Internet Crimes Against Children unit dedicated to this solely in the state police speaks to the magnitude of this issue. I think to the General's points about when we think back to the luring the subjects at playgrounds with a puppy or with candy, it is a totally different ball game this time with the advent of the internet and with these apps that make it so easy for these predators to prey on our most vulnerable. So I think when subjects that were arrested in this case, and I hope that it serves a deterrent for those that are at home thinking to go on, that if they think they're talking to a 14-year-old girl or boy, I hope in the back of their mind they think that they're talking to a New Jersey state trooper or to a detective in a prosecutor's office. Because then, if it stops one victim from being victimized, everybody in this room knows that a victim who undergoes this type of exploitation deals with that issue for the rest of his or her life. Whether that's under the form of counseling, whether that's mental illness, whether that then leads to medication. So if one victim is stopped because of task force initiatives like this, and that those subjects who want to exploit children, when they log on, I really hope they think of somebody in French blue with a gold stripe down their leg on the other side of that computer to make sure that this never happens again. I'd like to introduce now the Special Agent in charge of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Greg Erie.
Thank you. As you've just heard, the cyber landscape is a dangerous world, and it's a universe filled with criminals and with predators. In some cases, as we're seeing today, these predators are hunting our children. What you see behind me and what the collaborative effort is in the state of New Jersey, the local, the state, and the federal law enforcement people, some of who you see here today, will unite and find these people. And as we've seen and we've said before, we will strip them of their anonymity. We will unmask them, and we will arrest them in order to keep our children safe and other victims from falling bereft of this in the cyber world. Thank you. Now let me introduce my Homeland Security counterpart.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Rich Reinhold, Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Homeland Security Investigations, Newark Field Office. Bringing justice to those who sexually exploit children continues to be one of HSI's highest priorities. HSI special agents have the authority to investigate the illegal movement of people, goods across U.S. borders, and because the internet is borderless, the sharing of contraband online is an international crime. As law enforcement officers and parents, putting handcuffs on someone suspected of sexually abusing an innocent child gives us a temporary feeling of relief. And I say temporary because, unfortunately, there's so many predators out there for us to identify and remove from our communities. Operation Home Alone is a great example of federal, state, and local resources combining for the most righteous cause. Thank you.